We are live. JT here. Welcome to The Huddle. The Huddle is where I sit down with successful people from the world of sport and coaching. It's to learn more about their journey to greatness. Why do I have these conversations? Because success always leaves clues. I want to welcome you. Whether you are joining us live as we stream into our Facebook community, whether you are watching the replay on Facebook or on YouTube, whether you are listening to the recording on the podcast, thank you so much for being here with me and my special guest today. And what I want to remind you is the mind is like a parachute. It works best when it's wide open. And the challenge I have to you today is keep that mind open. And I guarantee you that if you keep that mind wide open, that you will gain a valuable nugget of wisdom that will help you succeed in the game of life. As I mentioned, as we started, I've been looking forward to this conversation with my special guest today. I'm grateful that he was able to carve out some time for us in his busy schedule. I know it's a busy time in the football season. My guest in the huddle today is the head coach of the University of Guelph Gryphons football program, Coach Ryan Sheahan. How are you today, Coach?
I'm well, JT. How are you? Thanks for having me. Appreciate being here.
You know what? My pleasure, Coach. Coach, before we get started, I just want to take a moment to send you some gratitude. As I was mentioning to you before we got on the call, in the time that we have gotten to know each other a little bit, as we've had some conversations, the one thing I have really wanted to acknowledge you for was just for your ability to see the big picture. Like the one thing I've really observed from you is your ability to really see that, take that 30,000 foot view. At first I noticed it in terms of football sense, but even in this game of life. So I just really wanted to thank you for reminding me on the importance of looking at the big picture, taking that 30,000 foot view, Coach.
Thanks very much. You flatter me with your compliment. I think that as a head coach, it's important to be able to take a step back often and see the big picture. We're not just playing for first downs here. We're playing for long-term success. And university football has a strong impact on people's lives. So we need to make sure as coaches that we're doing all the right things to be able to provide enough support and enough structure for people to grow. So while sometimes you can go down the rabbit hole and worry about corner reads and RPOs and things of that nature, it's important to take a step back and make sure that every facet of your organization is headed in the right direction and your culture has really found its place in the locker room and it's blossoming from there. So thanks for the compliment, but I consider myself to be a work in progress, in all facets of life. So I'll just continue to do great work and hopefully we produce some fine young men leaving our university.
I love that, Coach. I love that reminder that it sounds like football is, is a teaching tool, right? To teach how to be successful in the game of life.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Teaching is kind of the family vocation. The backbone of our family is our mother. She was the one who instilled a lot of core values in us. My father is a really hard worker, very intelligent. He's a good man, great teacher, but he is a teacher. And so are my younger siblings. They both are elementary school teachers. And I actually have my Bachelor of Education degree hanging on my wall as well. The running joke I have with parents, players, and recruits is that, I am a teacher. I just have a really big classroom and it's got a lot of white lines on it. So while we're out there, we're teaching much more than X's and O's, low pad level and, position 1 through 3 and how to block. It's really how to compete, how to be a good person, control your emotions sometimes, and know when to let them loose. So you don't want to call it a business, but this vocation of ours in coaching, this is about people. So if we can do enough right things to provide an environment where people can grow and move on from us and succeed and draw their own map, so to speak, then we've done our job.
I love that. I didn't know that. I knew you had your teaching degree, but it's great to hear that teaching is sort of was in the blood. It sounds like. Okay.
Yeah, it started. I think it started with our father, Pat, and we heard his story and how what his knacks were and through his educational career. But what was instilled at home and definitely growing up, and especially, and then an extra emphasis in high school. I went to Loyola High School in Montreal, and our motto is "Men for Others," which has stuck with me forever. So I've always tried to keep that right on the cornerstone of my soul, where it's important to help others, whether it's in community service or somebody who just needs a pep talk. It doesn't matter. And I think, more and more you kind of travel through this life that there's opportunity to help others, even if it's just saying good morning to somebody you don't know, or holding the door open at Starbucks or McDonald's or wherever you get your caffeine in the morning. There's an opportunity to make a positive impact on lives, and it can start small. And I try and remember that when I'm out in public, and I stop worrying about, okay, who's going to be in the lineup this week and how much fundraising are we doing, et cetera, the things that kind of can get you bogged down in the office. So when you just get back to just living, is that where are the opportunities where you can help somebody?
I love that, Coach. Again, it's so such a simple mantra to live your life by. So I'm curious, Coach, you had a successful career, first as an athlete, right, at the U Sport level, and then you played over a season in Europe, and then you transitioned into coaching. You coached at your alma mater with your father, and then you spent some time in the CFL, and then you went out west. So it's obviously very evident that sport has played a big role for you in your life. So I'm curious, what has been the biggest lesson that you've taken away from sport? And what is that lesson that you still apply to your life today?
Well, before we move forward, let me kind of thank you for flattering me again. You're very kind, but I got to make your correction. In university, I got to tell you the truth. As a professional, talent evaluator, I can look back at my football career and say I was okay. Tommy Dennison was the star on our team. He was the star quarterback, fully worthy of his back-to-back MVPs, talent for days. There's not too many people that can throw a spiral like him. I was his backup, his understudy. And I think that my journey into coaching has to do with that I was blessed with a better than average brain. And, athletically, I love to compete. But I could definitely see the game, but not do some of the things that MVPs like Tommy Dennison and Andrew Buckley and Adam Sinangra and a countless list of others could do. So I love the game of football, and my greatest attribute in my being is my mind. So I was able to apply my mind and then use my knack for teaching to be able to, take playbooks, digest them and then regurgitate them in fashions where younger people could understand what we're trying to accomplish. As to your question, how sport has impacted me, I think that sport's just a beautiful thing. You get a chance to go out there and do something you really enjoy, try your best all the time, give it your all. But the important lessons come not only from the good times had with your friends and winning, but the times where you fail. Failure is life's great teacher. And in sport and in life, it doesn't always go your way. And when you're young, or when you're younger, you get upset, tears, you're angry, you're frustrated. You lash out a little bit. Your emotions overcome you. As you grow older, you learn to deal with those things. In the game and in the game of life, especially, it doesn't always go your way. It doesn't matter whether it's at a crosswalk, an intersection, in a grocery store. Sometimes you bump into rude people, or mishaps are happening at home, socially, personally, financially. And if you take the lessons that you learn in sport, you have to be able to persevere, deal with hardship, and continue to move forward. I think that that's the biggest lesson that sport taught me. I talked to a number of professionals, and they really like to hire athletes because they know how to work hard. They know about duress. They can work in a team environment. They know how to persevere. They know how to dig deep when times get tough. So if you just take those handful of things and apply them to any career, when things don't always go perfectly, you'll know how to battle and persevere and continue to move forward.
So I'm curious, Coach. So as you were saying, your playing career was, you had the opportunity to learn from, one of the all-time greats in youth sport history as a quarterback in Coach Dennison. So I'm curious, was that lesson to be able to, be in that environment where you're an ultra competitor, like you mentioned, but, you having to sort of learn how to, I guess, serve the team, right? In terms of how to best utilize your gifts. Was that a lesson that you've always understood, or is that something that you learned, as you grew up?
It was definitely a learning curve for sure, to be transparent, because, when not just myself, but when any athlete gets to a university football team, number one, your first job is to make the team. That's job one. And oftentimes you can get caught up in ego. We definitely remind people here at the University of Guelph that on day one of training camp, I want everybody to look right and then to look left. And I want everybody to recognize that everybody in this room was probably one of the best football players on their high school, CEGEP, or junior team. Everybody here is good and they can all play. So similarly for me, I was the starter and one of the better players on the team that I was coming from, but then, was beat out by a guy who was more talented. And that might not have felt good at the time, but at the same time, you're learning to function in a team environment. And I had to do my job, and that was to be the backup to a superstar. And there was a learning curve in that. And I might have not always done it to the best because I am human, but at the same time, I was proud to be on that team. I was proud to say that I was Tommy's backup. And I also take a lot of pride in the fact that I think that being a backup quarterback is one of the hardest jobs in sports. I really do, because you have to be ready enough and knowledgeable enough to be able to go in at the drop of a hat, whether it's a broken fingernail, a tape job, a shoelace, blood on the arm, it's got to get cleaned up. You have to go in and do your job in order for the team to continuously succeed. And then if the starter's ready to go back in, you have to come right back off because he's the one that definitely deserves to be playing. So being the backup quarterback is a difficult job. And I sympathize with the guys that are number 2 and number 3 and so on. To throw an extra layer and to make myself smile, and maybe some people in the audience smile, is that I not only had to be the backup quarterback, my father was the head coach. So I felt like some of the hardship of being a backup and being the coach's kid helped mold me to where I am today. It wasn't always easy. There were some bumps in the road, but when I look back on it, I look back on it fondly because it helped mold me. And I can handle a few more things than the average bear today.
And I love that you're sharing that, right? Sort of that interesting dynamic as well, having your dad as the head coach. But it was interesting that it was very similar to what you're talking about, your experience there as a backup that Coach Bone was sharing when he was on the huddle a little while ago. So, what I find fascinating is that you have taken your experiences as an athlete, where you have played a role and helped develop some of the most decorated, right, most highly decorated quarterbacks in youth sport history. So in terms of working with, that position, and because really they are the face very often of the program, what is it like working and developing these quarterbacks, especially the really good ones? What has that experience been like for you?
Well, thanks for giving me the opportunity to pay them compliments, because I've been blessed. Really, I've got to work with some pretty special people. When I first stepped into coaching, I got to work with Danny Brannigan, but not just, and I'm very, very lucky here because I got to work with Danny in his 4th and his 5th year. So he'd gone through some growing pains. He'd been working with my father and Warren Goldie. So I got to step in and see where I could help, not just come in and pretend that I was Pat Sheahan or Warren Goldie, who would have oodles more knowledge than I do. And said, how can I help this young man with his game, whether it be cones, photocopies, DVDs, video work, encouragement, criticism were required, but he was more of a polished product. Okay. So it was really just managing a senior player who had already been through a lot. And I was just there to help him at the tail end of his journey. And it worked out. And I was a part of a beautiful chapter in Queens football there. So I give all the credit to Danny, and I just tried to help him where I could. But at the same time, I was still learning to become a coach at that time. Did have some technical skill and technical knowledge, but at the same time, do not want to come in here and say, like, hey, look, Danny's only Danny because of me. Danny's Danny because of Danny and Pat Sheahan and Warren Goldie and Dan Brannigan Sr. and a plethora of other guys who helped him along his way. And I was just fortunate to be a part of that. But in getting to work with a great player in his senior years, you pick up a few things. And here's where this helped that individual. And here's where that didn't work with that individual. And I was really lucky that he'd be honest with me, like, look, here's what I need. And can you do this? But yeah, no problem. More of a conversation than it was like, okay, do this, do what I'm telling you, because this is what's going to get you to where you want to go. So just a great relationship. And then I got to take everything I learned from working with Dan Brannigan and work with a couple of younger guys like Justin Chaplin and Billy McPhee and Ryan Mitchell on the Queens days. And we went through a growth curve. And by the end, Billy McPhee was a pretty good quarterback. Got to go and have a bit of a tryout with the Tiger Cats, and I'm proud of him and still proud of him because he's just a great man. And then the Calgary chapter, well, talk about history repeating itself. I stepped in and got to coach the actual reigning Heck Crichton winner and Andrew Buckley. He had already won the MVP without me. We just kind of came in and I just tweaked his game a little bit and taught a different system. And Andrew's a great man. Still love seeing him, always has a smile. But Andrew was very honest. Like, I came in hard and kind of, when a team full of superstars, I definitely wanted to make an impact. So we kind of came in and I was like, look, this is the way. I was direct, loud voices, really tried to push a team of stars to a different level. I mean, what do you do when your offense has like 18 professional athletes on it? You got to come in and see if you can take A to A plus. And Andrew was very honest with me. He's like, when you first showed up, I did not like it. You were hot, you were heavy. Then I started to realize the method to your madness, and voila, the finished product was, another MVP season, just with a little more yards in the pass category. And he thanks me for it all the time, but really it's me thanking him because he was a joy to work with, a tremendously hard worker, and also an MVP talent. And then the final, since we're talking about MVPs, and Adam Sinagra, talk about the gunslinger with an edge, a true cowboy, just not from the West. He's from Quebec like I am, but came out and embraced everything that the Calgary culture had to offer, that everybody's got a ball out at that school, performance, drives respect. And he came in and embraced it. Also went through his ups and downs, but his ups definitely outweighed his downs. All I tried to do with all these individuals, to wrap up my story, is look where the student needed help. Okay. Some of them had tremendous arms and I didn't need to fix that. Okay. And I didn't need to tell them to lift weights. Some of them saw the game better on the field than they did on the board and on film. Okay. So we definitely had to try and create more live situations and simulations for them to be able to excel. So I think it's the role of the teacher to be able to look at what does the student need here, okay? And what type of learner are they? And when to push. With all quarterbacks I've ever worked with, I've always asked them, like, what do you want to get out of this? And in certain instances, when they said, like, I want to be the MVP, then I knew that we'd had to put our foot on the gas. and really go, which is very much my style. But I have been in different situations, younger guys, some inexperienced guys, where, we definitely have to start at level one and then build the whole thing up. Not every season is an MVP season, but MVPs that I've coached, they've definitely been older, mature, and they all had the same thing in common. They have drive. They definitely want it. They know how to outwork people. Okay. And then it's the role of the teacher to feel like, okay, if you've got the drive and you've got that edge, what part of your game needs the most tutelage, the most support, the more structure? And I definitely don't want to take you away from being you. So if you're a gunslinger and you got that edge and you will take off and run and you do know how to rally the boys, okay, good, go be yourself. Okay, it has to be organic, much like this conversation.
Coach, I love, again, getting into that quarterback mind and just seeing the process, right? Just seeing how process driven you are. The one thing I really heard from you, and again, you could see that teaching mind. You talked about needs, right? Like, what does this person need to take their game to the next level? But one thing that I really heard from you, and I'm getting greater insight, is your ability to gauge the temperature of the room. Like hearing you talk, you have this ability to know, okay, this person needs this. Like, you'll ask a question, like, what do you want? But then you know how to sort of embody that common confidence to know I can help you get there. So I'm curious with you, how important is it when you're working with people, or if you're trying to develop yourself, that you truly know what your strengths, your gifts, your talents are?
You mean from their perspective or from mine?
I think from anyone trying to take their game to the next level, how important is it that they know that each individual knows their strengths, their talents, their gifts, and their abilities?
Crucial. And what we deal with here on a daily basis is the truth. And when you're young, truth is not always fun. Okay. And this chapter in people's lives at university, especially university football, you have to be able to receive and accept criticism. Okay. It's the role of a good teacher to make sure that your criticism is constructive and not demeaning. Okay. And sometimes we fail at that as coaches because we get hot and we're competitive and we raise our voices, etc. But it's important to know you have to have that honest conversation, not only early, but often. Like, we need to continue to work at this because we are not proficient enough at A, B, or C to be able to get you to where your performance level is high, and then the team performance level is equally high, and then we're all sharing in the success. So if it's an arm strength thing, if it's a vision thing, if it's dealing with the F factor, which is fear, we have to be able to tackle that. Sorry for the analogy, but it does fit. We have to be able to deal with that so we can, sharpen our tools and get to work. There's no substitute for hard work. There isn't. If you want to be good at anything, unless you're just one of those people doesn't matter who you pray to, if you've been touched by the Almighty and you just have a thunderbolt attached to your shoulder, and you can just outthrow everybody, or you're just faster than everybody. But for us normal Joes, we're backup quarterbacks. You better work like crazy because the team's counting on us. And it doesn't matter whether you're the quarterback, receiver, kicker, left guard, or whatever. You've got to work because your performance counts and it matters to everybody else. That's why football is the ultimate team game, right?
So I'm curious, again, you've played with, you have coached with, you're coaching, some of the most decorated athletes that have played, Canadian university football. I'm curious with you, you talked about that ability to take criticism, right? To take feedback. The greats, do they have that ability from your experience?
Absolutely. No question. But I don't want to say that it's just always simple. I mean, let's just compare two MVPs. Andrew Buckley was already the MVP and a two-time Russ Jackson winner. Okay, so an all-around star, great person, great student. If he's not a doctor by now, he's moments away from becoming it. Well, here's somebody who's drafted by the Calgary Stampeders, you know, spent a little bit of time in the show and then coming back for his 5th year. So his ability to handle criticism was, okay, yeah, doesn't matter whether the coach was talking, whispering, or yelling. He's like, yeah, got it. I heard the message. Ignore the medium. I can hear the message. Whereas, you know, a younger MVP, you know, an Adam, okay, not right away. Sometimes we get wrapped up in the, hey, why'd you raise your voice? You know, okay, but hang on, listen to the criticism. By the end, tune all that out. Okay, finds it. So there is a curve there. And you also need to judge your student. Like, what do they respond to? Okay. They always need the calm and mellow voice, or do they need your voice raised so you can know, you can intensify the situation, see if people can rise up. George Cortez taught me a very valuable lesson: make the practices hard so that the games are easy. So creating that stress with loud voices and moving parts and, you know, intensity period to period, you know, where everybody's got to perform and hurry up and the clock's against you, and like, whoa, 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 whoa. And then on game day, it's like, ref blows it in. There's 19, 18, 17 on the play clock. I'm just out there playing now. All the noise is gone. So criticism is not always easy for any individual to handle. Okay. A teacher can make criticism, more difficult by not knowing the learner. You know, you walk into a room full of people without knowing them, and all you do is like, this is it. I'm raising my voice and you need to listen. They're like, oh, you don't even know me yet. Okay. And that's something that sometimes we get right and sometimes we get wrong. But as I said, not perfect, but always a work in progress.
You know, it's come up a number of times as we've been sharing, but I really, you know, one of my favorite quotes is that Nelson Mandela quote, right? I never lose. I either win or I learn. And I really get a sense talking to you that you take everything like it's not, you know, I'm either winning or I'm learning something, right? And so I love that you're embodying that, right?
Yeah, Nelson Mandela, one of the greatest, right? I agree to it to a certain extent. Yeah, in every contest, there's a winner and a loser, but it's important to be able to handle the loss.
Yeah,
you got to be able to be humble in victory and defeat.
Yeah,
and understand that even though they do count the L's in that category, whether no matter what position or how long you've been coaching, it's important to be able to look at the losses and look for as many learning moments as you can find. It really is, because they're around every nook and cranny. They're in your locker room, they're on your bench, they're on the field of play, they're in your operations. Okay, what didn't we do to championship standard today, and how do we get closer to that the next time?
Love that. So I'm curious, Coach. One thing that I've definitely observed since you moved to Guelph in 2019 was you've surrounded yourself with great football minds. And even more so, I think they're even greater human beings, like great teachers, right? So I'm curious, how important is it for any leader to surround themselves with other calm and confident leaders and just, you know, people that bring different strengths to the table?
Crucial to your organization's success. I mean, this is a very impressive place. When you step onto Guelph's campus, around every turn, you can see that athletics are important here. From the field house to the athletic center to the football pavilion to the brand new performance center we're about to open in about a couple of weeks here. I can't wait to give you the tour, by the way. It's beautiful. So, and not only sports, but you definitely get a feeling that football is important here. So I'm a big movie buff, so I hate to use this one, but it fits. If you build it, you know, he will come as the field of dreams. Now, I am not, you know, Ray Kinsella by any means, you know, but what I am is I'm learning to be a good manager. I think as a good manager, if you've got great facilities and great players, you need to get them great coaches, great teachers. So what I try to do is, you know, and I think as an assistant, you're always wondering when your time is going to come. And when you get the opportunity to run your own show, you need to bring in your own people, your own staff, people that you want to work with every day and you trust, you know, without a doubt. So we've got a lot of professional football people here. And I am humbled every day that I come to work from A to Z. I really am. You know, from our offensive line coach, Mike McDonald, who's spent a lifetime in the RCMP, you chasing down criminals and building cases, and also in his spare time, loving coaching, developing young players in Burlington, developing young men here at the University of Guelph and helping them go have CFL careers on the offensive line. I mean, he humbles me every day. Dennis McPhee, 16 years as a defensive line coach with the Hamilton Tiger Cats. How many coaches can you name that spent their entire CFL career with one organization? It's got to be doing something right. And the proof's in the pudding out there. Our defense is spectacular. Donovan Carter, first round draft pick. First round draft pick in the CFL, played 8 years, 3 different ball clubs. Great teacher, great strategist, great person. Somebody I feel that our players can look up to and rally around. Joe Sardo, full ride athlete at the University of Hawaii, played in the CFL, a great family man. List goes on. Stevenson Bone, Vanier Cup champion at the University of Western. Mark Soria, Vanier Cup champion, Queen's University. I mean, these guys, excite me coming into work. And it's important that our players are surrounded by not only good teachers, but good men, and they're winners. I think that that's an amazing combination, for a football staff.
I love, like, as you were sharing your coaches, I was just thinking that, their core values, right? Of why they're doing it and how they go about their business, very similar to your approach. So again, just a great reminder of the importance of surrounding yourself with like-minded people.
Yeah, I think that any head coach could do this when you boil it all down. This is about providing a tremendous amount of structure and support for young men stepping into an environment where they have to work hard in order to be successful, and they have to compete. Internal competition is important here, and our staff, we're all competitive as hell. We really are. We don't like to lose at euchre.
Yeah.
So we definitely, there's a chip on our shoulder when we battle every night and no huddle. Coach Soria is always trying to beat Coach McPhee. Coach McPhee is always trying to get our quarterback on the ground. It's intense, and it's an ultra competitive environment. I'm really proud of it.
So I'm curious, Coach, what has, you've had, let's just say, a very interesting tenure as a head coach at Guelph, right? You had a great first year, and then, the world kind of hits pause. What has been your biggest takeaway in the few years that you've been in the head position at Guelph?
Well, I've touched on it a number of times. I think this is, I'm a work in progress is what I'll call it.
Okay.
I've been honest with, some of our senior players when we sat down and chatted about it. The reason why I was brought to Guelph is that I became a very good strategist and a good recruiter. Okay. The age-old saying is that, you're never ready until you get there. So then I guess I answered enough questions right and had enough experience, behind me to be able to take on the next step, which, becoming a head coach is a challenge. And now the work will show you the way. Okay. So now I'm learning to be a head coach every day. And I've got some great people in my corner I can lean on. Pat Shane, Wayne Harris, a friendly phone call to Jacques Chapdelaine if I need it. Pat Gregory at John Abbott, people that I look up to on a daily basis and respect, and are always a phone call away. But you learn by doing. So sorry for the long-winded answer for your question. It's definitely been unique with the pandemic. It really has. So in year one, it was about coming in and trying to have an impact on a group of young men who I was their 4th head coach in 5 years. That's not easy. And I sympathize with them to the nth degree. I mean, that's tough. Change in any part of life is difficult. Okay. But I'm proud that we were able to kind of come together in a way where we could put our best foot forward. And we took the 2019 campaign as far as we could, losing to the eventual conference champions. And they were good that day, better than us. And then the pandemic, well, I had nothing to compare it to. So those are, even though I have no metrics to compare, but all those mentors I just mentioned, they never been through a pandemic either. So what I'm really proud of is that we were able to kind of come together as a staff and try and provide as much support as we could for our student athletes. And I'm proud of what we did. We were on Zoom or Microsoft Teams every other day. We had game plan meetings, we had fun meetings, we just had team meetings to talk. We had one-on-one meetings, we would put concepts up on PowerPoint and use the mouse and do as much teaching, learning, have as many discussions as we could in a year and a half, hoping for our chance to retake the field. And I don't know how you measure success in that department, but I'm really proud of the work we did. And the best part of these moments that we've had in the past few months is that I couldn't stop smiling when we were finally allowed to, it was kind of in that hiatus where, okay, you're out of lockdown, you're allowed so many people in a workout space, et cetera, et cetera. And we had to lay down the rules and had to do COVID screening and masks and things and distance. When we got together in the field house for the first time in February, the guys were just happy to see each other. And it was just a human moment where guys were, and I wasn't going to harp on them, and I can get in trouble for this, but they high-fived, a couple of them hugged it out. They were craving that human connection. And as much as we tried to do electronically to kind of keep the program going and know that we're here and we've got them and trying to do our jobs and support them as best we can, as soon as they got together, it just kind of, we were all reminded that we're a part of something bigger. Not just our team bigger, but humanity, just connecting with each other. And then once we were allowed to take the field in the summer, it was just beautiful. See them run, compete, laugh, tease each other, kid around. That's what university football is all about, right? Those relationships. These guys are going to be in each other's weddings. They're going to know each other's kids. They're going to go to reunions. They're going to go on vacations together. These are those friendships that last a lifetime. And I wouldn't trade in my experiences in university for anything, or my best friends that come from John Abbott College, still know all their families, their friends. It's their relationships that matter the most. So the pandemic was tough. There are no measurables, but I'm proud of the work we did, and I'm looking forward to the future, with tremendous positivity, because I feel we're just getting started here.
Coach, I love that you're talking about the importance of, when you're creating culture and you're building culture, how you do have, you make it fun and you immerse yourself in the process. And that's one thing that I've really observed as I've been able to watch. Yeah, some of it over social, but I really get the sense that the players, the coaches in the program, they love putting in the work. They may not like it at the time, but they realize it's going to set them up to create that success on the field. So I think that that's a testament to your message and the leadership that you're providing. So kudos to you, Coach.
Thanks. It really is just about these guys. They've really kind of clung to the culture that the new staff has brought here. It took some time to develop, but we've got tremendous buy-in, from the top down, and they're really working their butt off. They really are. Guelph, I feel, is a reflection of the staff, and we're a reflection of the players. Like, here, we're tough and we work hard, and I think that you can definitely see that and feel that on game day. That, when you're going to play the Gryphons, you're in for a tough one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, Coach, I want to be respectful of your time and energy. So I have one last question for you. So challenges, obstacles, setbacks, they're part of the game of life. It's not that we want to expect them, but we just understand they will pop up from time to time. So I'm curious, if someone watching this, is listening to this, is going through some adversity, what is one piece of advice that you would offer them? Something actionable they can do today to create a positive play so that they can create some momentum and get back on their journey to greatness.
I would say that sometimes, just to kind of add on to what you're throwing at me right here, sometimes life feels insurmountable. And that's tremendously challenging when you're staring at a mountain. You're like, how am I going to climb this? It's just really, I hate to make it sound cliche, but you got to take the first step. So if you're bogged down with work, and it doesn't matter whether it's emails, exams, your courses, your labs, football, whatever, you have to start somewhere. And you have to pick a task that you can check off your list. So if it's just reading the game plan once, you can make a list of all the things that are bogging you down right now, and then start to tick a few off. And then once you have enough things crossed off, recreate that list and watch how it starts to get smaller, and take stock in the fact that you put some work in and you've accomplished a few tasks. So if today what you had to do was read your game plan, watch film, show up, go to the meeting, go to walkthrough, go to team dinner, but also, work on your paper that's due Monday, call your mother, read 3 chapters, because that reading in your group work is due on Wednesday. You just make a list and start to check things off. And what an analogy for everyday life. I don't want to fool anybody. It's not like, head coaches just have 10,000 things, and if they don't finish those 10,000 things, they can't go home and see their families. No, we try and prioritize, do the things that we have to do today, and then we'll say, okay, first thing tomorrow morning, I got to do these 10 things before 9 a.m. because then we have an offensive meeting. And you just have to be able to organize yourself. The key to success in university is organization. It really is. Juwan Jeffrey, our running back, great quote. When I asked him, to give on this type of advice to young players in our program, and he said, you really got to learn how to be organized, because then you'll facilitate the work. So you got to prioritize, prioritize, and then check a few things off. Taking the small step forward is your first step in positivity.
I love that, Coach. That keep it simple. And I love how you just that simple reminder of just take it one focused action at a time, and build off that.
Which factors into the overall statement of keep moving forward. One small step forward, okay? Like we just said, that's continuously moving forward. Keep going. Life is going to throw you all kinds of stuff, okay? And you got to learn to deal with it and take on the challenges head on every day. And one of these days, you're going to look behind you and be like, hey, I did all that. I conquered all that. I continued to work through all that stuff that life threw at me. Look where I am. And don't look back too fast, and don't admire too long, because there's more. There's more coming.
I love that. So, Coach, how can we help and support you, Gryphon football? Maybe there's someone listening to this, a high school athlete that wants to learn more about what, Guelph is as a program. What's the best way people can connect or learn more?
I really feel for young athletes these days. I hope that many of them are getting a chance to play this fall. I really do. We've connected with a bunch of athletes already that their seasons are just kind of picking up, whether it's in community ball or the high schools are just starting to play again, reduced schedules, talks of an OFSA in Kingston in late November, early December. So I feel for them. I hope they're getting back on the field. I hope they've never stopped working. Champions always find a way. Hey, I don't have a gym. Well, there's a hill near my house, and I'm going to run up that. And I'm going to lift something heavy that my dad has in the garage. Things of that nature. My point is that what we need to be able to evaluate guys in high school, it's always hard when they're playing in the fall as we're playing. It's hard to make it to ballparks. Okay, so we need to be able to evaluate some stuff on film. I feel for all the athletes that are going to watch this and have sent me emails and like, hey, I'm Ryan Sheahan and I'm 6'3" and I'm 200 pounds, and I'm not 200 pounds and a little heavier than that. But anyway, and I really love the game, and I've been playing since I was 8. I need to be able to evaluate you, because there's just so many people out there that just want to have a university of football experience, but I need to be able to see it on tape. What we're planning on doing here at the University of Guelph is that, when we can, to get out to as many practices, as many contests, on Fridays when it's walkthrough day, and see who's hosting a quarterback skills camp, an O-lineman camp, in the winter. Hint, hint, we'll be doing that as well. So to be able to evaluate young guys while they did, because the hiatus was tough on all of us. So I sympathize with the young people. I want them to hear this and continue to work hard, and, the work will show you the way. Outwork people. Your talent starts to shine brighter when you're outworking people.
Love it. Okay.
Before we go, can we congratulate you for a second? The Director of Sport for Football Ontario.
Yeah. Thank you, Coach.
Congratulations on your
receive.
post. Congratulations on your post. In the short time I've known you, you seem like a fine man who cares about others. So I know that you're in a great spot with the organization, and Football Ontario has got a bright future with you a part of it, and with Aaron Geisler at the helm. So kudos to you guys, and I look forward to seeing what the future holds.
Well, Coach, thank you. I'm enthused to continue that we can continue to work together through the high performance committee, and just looking forward to it. So, Coach, I really want to take a moment to acknowledge you. I want to acknowledge you for the man you are, the great husband, the great dad, the great teacher, mentor, coach, but most importantly, the amazing human being you are. The one thing I've definitely taken away from this conversation is how focused you are on serving the hearts of others by really helping them get to where they want to go, right? By really helping support them in what they need. So thank you, Coach, for providing me that reminder, because it just reminds me what coaching is, right? It's about helping to develop people in the game of life. So thank you for that, Coach.
You're welcome. Mark, we all say it differently. Mark Saria's phrase was very, very good a couple of years ago. The role of a coach is to push you to a level that you didn't know you could get to. It really is. So if you're a B- student and you thought that's all you were, no. We're going to be able to push just a little bit harder because you're really an A student. So here in the world of athletics, it's about driving towards excellence in all things that we do. But like, as I've said a couple of times in this conversation, not interview, but conversation, the work will show you the way. And don't be afraid to outwork the next guy. You'll go to tremendous places.
Love that. So here is my challenge to each of you, whether you're watching this, whether you're listening to the recording. Coach shared so many valuable nuggets of wisdom that will help you succeed in the game of life. But as I often remind you in the huddle, knowledge is potential power. It's the consistent and focused application of that great knowledge that actually creates great results. So go do the work. And I look forward to chat with you next time in the huddle. Have a great day, everyone.